Hi, everybody. Welcome to the lesson on using AT to support challenges in written output. Let's back up and do a little retrieval practice before we dive into this unit by thinking about what the definition of assistive technology is. So AT is technically defined as any item, piece of equipment, program, or product system used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of a person with a disability. Assistive technology can be broken down into three categories, or you may sometimes see this as four categories. But for our purposes, let's say three, and that would be no tech or low tech, medium tech, or high tech. Low tech or no tech are things that use very minimal or possibly no technology at all. So that could even be something like a pencil grip or an adaptive pair of scissors. Something that is very easy to obtain or create and supports in a very basic way the functional performance of someone with a disability. Medium tech is a little more advanced, usually a little more expensive, and a little more complicated. Think of this as something that you might have to mess around with for a little bit to figure out how it works. Or you might have to read a short instruction book or watch a short video or have somebody explain it to you in just a few minutes. And that's what the learning curve is typically like for something that's in that medium tech category. This might be something like a basic communication switch. It could be something like a trackpad for somebody that can't use a mouse, or an adapted mouse that plugs into a computer keyboard and uses bigger movements. This stuff is typically $100 or less. And sometimes you can even get it for cheaper because you can make it yourself or buy something off the shelf and then adapt it to fit the needs or the challenges of the person that you're working with. Now, at the far end of the spectrum is high-tech assistive technology, and this is the bigger buck, more complicated, bigger learning curve type of materials. So this would be many of the augmentative communication systems, or some people call those talkers, and we've talked about those before. This would be like a laptop with special capabilities, whether it's built in when you buy it from the store, or if it's added software, or things that are done web-based. So if you go to a certain website and then that allows for certain capabilities that help someone with a disability be more functional. There are other things in each of these categories. I'm just trying to jog your memory about what we've learned about these so far. And remember, this is very, very important when it comes to assistive technology. You're not going to choose a piece of assistive technology or a strategy that might be in this category until you've really considered the client and the environment and what it is that that person needs support to do. So if you see a post on Facebook or hear someone say, what kind of assistive tech is good for a elementary school aged boy with autism? That's not enough information. That person may not have resources, they may not have interest, or they may not have abilities to use things in the higher tech category. They may not need something in that category. So, as an example, that would be a case when you need to dive in and get more information if you're the one who's going to be participating in that recommendation or the trial of AT with that person. So, we're going to talk about things in those different categories and some potential products and solutions that might help somebody with a disability who has a challenge in writing or producing written output. So that also might be keyboarding. Now, for a student to succeed in the classroom, they need to be able to put out work. And in most cases, that's going to mean that there's some kind of requirement for a written assignment. And I know you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes around the word written because, again, it might be typed. It might not be handwritten. Or it even could be circling something or putting an X on something or even pointing to the correct answer. Students with challenges in areas of visual perception, sensory processing, fine motor or visual motor skills, students who have problems with dysgraphia that cause them challenges with the process of writing, whether it's from composing things from within their head, like write a story about a dog, or even just copying things from a near source, like a textbook that's right there on the table or the desk beside you, or a far source, like a chalkboard, a list of words written on a chalkboard that's across a classroom. And we see those challenges in all those areas on a regular basis in working with children and adults with any of those challenges that impair their written production. So it's imperative for the OT to be proactive, supportive, adaptable, and creative instead of what we think of as reactive or responsive in cases of written output production. So here's the something big. You got to remember this. When you are called on to support a person who is challenged in writing, what you want to do, especially for a child, is to look at what the point of doing that assignment or task is. What is the really big goal that they're trying to do or that they need to do? That's how you're going to figure out what type of AT materials and or strategies are called for. So in short, the goal of the use of assistive technology when you work with individuals with challenges with written output is ensuring that the person's written work reflects their academic or work performance rather than having that written work highlight a challenge or a problem with handwriting or another skill set. Learning disabilities are neurological disorders that affect the brain's ability to receive, process, store, and respond to information. Written output disorders are a type of learning disability, sometimes called dysgraphia, that result in poor writing skills, which lead to impaired student performance. And what we see is really the student's performance in terms of written output is below and sometimes significantly below what we would really expect when considering that person's age, cognitive level, and their level of education. Students with a written output disorder do not usually have problems with formulating ideas about what they need to write, but rather with the mechanics of getting their ideas down on paper. Now, if someone is challenged in formulating their ideas, that might be a different type of learning disability. So I'm not saying that never happens. I'm just saying that's separate and might happen alongside a written output challenge. But today we're really looking at how to support learners with written output challenges. So if a student's handwriting is hindering their academic achievement, I like to think of this as if they're not really able to get credit for what they know, their frustration and even anxiety may lead to secondary emotional factors like disruptive behavior, low self-esteem, negative attitudes towards learning or going to school or doing homework. That may be the child that says, I'm not smart, I can't do it, I hate school, I hate homework, I'm terrible at writing, you're never going to be able to read my work, so why do it? Common challenges that we see in individuals with these types of written output impairments are, it seems like they don't really understand the physical limitations of the space on a page. You can kind of see that in the example on the slide. As I said, you also may hear a resistance to writing tasks that goes above really what you would normally expect for a child, not just saying, I don't like doing homework. It's that they really think they can't do it and they hate it and will do almost anything to get out of it. You also may see problems with sizing, so not just spacing, but sizing. You may see them write very large or sometimes really small letters and numbers. You may see problems with the pressure of their writing. I've seen written work that looks like the student was trying to drive the pencil right through the page with their writing. Or so light you can hardly make out what they're writing. You may see either of those. And then you also may see just the basic problems with letter formation. They may be imprecise or incorrect, and that makes it really hard for other people and sometimes the person themselves to read that writing. So again, they're not going to really get credit for what they know. Things that I've observed in people with written output challenges are using a mixture that's atypical of upper and lowercase letters. So they may put a capital letter in the middle of a word, or they may never use uppercase letters. Again, irregularly sized letters and numbers, unfinished letters, an odd and sometimes almost painful looking writing grip, lots of spelling mistakes, decreased or increased speed of writing and copying, talking to themselves while writing, teachers saying this child's writing is horrendous, I can't read it. They'll make a note that somebody's writing is illegible. And if you think about that term, legibility, it really has something to do with the abilities of the writer and the person reading or trying to read their writing. So I always like to kind of point that out. It's not just a one-sided issue. May see the person experience a lot of stress around written work production. Sometimes they'll complain of physical pain in their hand or arm when writing, and poor or irregular use of lines and spaces. So these are some things that we see in individuals with written output. So stop the video and take a minute to make sure you have your note-taking guide filled out, and then go to part 2 of the video.